A resilient faith is a faith that bounces back. No one has a consistent, steady, upward line in their spiritual journey. I speak from personal experience. I've experienced long periods of intense, close connection with God, and then the occasional backsliding or stumble in the walk, just like you. Those times I hobbled and sometimes I even fell. What brought me back into an exciting walk with God, besides Him stopping for me and reaching out, is realizing that it is possible to bounce back into an intimate relationship with God, and it doesn't matter how far down we have fallen. Now that is a resilient faith, and I believe that is the first step to realize that it is possible, that God does not treat us as disposable glass that shatters on the floor. In fact, He catches us before we break. And if you think that is amazing, sometimes we resist God and don't allow Him to catch us before we fall. And instead we fall and break. But what does God do with the broken pieces of our lives? He picks up each piece and puts it together again over and over. And most times, He creates a better design, more appreciated than the first. A Bible text that comes to my mind is Romans 8 verse 28. All things work together for good to those who love God. The second step, which is equally important, is learning how to. Knowing that it is possible to be reconnected with God is important. Yes, and here is where most people get stuck. They feel that it is possible, but not to the extent that the Bible says so. Personally, I can relate and understand it, because if you don't know how to, if you haven't learned how to, then you will be stuck or staggered and not so confident in your faith. And a third, mastering a personal rhythm of connecting with God through your individual personality is essential to maintaining a vibrant faith. Now, these 3 steps is what we call next steps, and they are critical. Number 1, realizing that it is possible. Number 2, learning how to. And number 3, mastering the art of creating a rhythm of connecting with God through your individual personality. And this is a desire we all have. And have you noticed that as important as they are, yet all of them is not dependent on an institution. In fact, it is a personal, private, and intimate experience. We need to view our spiritual development through a more holistic lens that reflects reality. Think about it. Your professional growth is in your hands. Your health is in your hands. Your personal development is in your hands. Your mental and emotional development, yes, is in your hands. And even your relational health is in your hands. It doesn't make sense to isolate and shift the responsibility for our spiritual development outside ourselves. We are composite beings: emotional, physical, relational, social, and spiritual. An improvement in one area affects all other areas. For growth and development in each aspect, we need to take personal responsibility, and connection with God is no exception. Now, any good pastor will tell you that there will always be the need for community and fellowship. But church should never be used as a crutch or substitute for personal, proactive action that is needed to grow spiritually. Growth takes place at the cellular level, and individual and personal cellular growth is real growth. All over the world, churches closed literally during COVID-19, and it showed us by default the limitations of institutionalism and corporate church. If your spiritual diet is just sermons and what happens at church and through the church, then our spiritual growth will be deficient. Following the COVID-19 pandemic, we are even more convinced that worship should not be confined to a specific time and place, but instead worship should be about a posture, attitude, and lifestyle 7 days a week. Spiritual leaders should therefore seek to build and inspire capacity in individuals that would empower them to grow and share their faith with or without the church, instead of creating dependence on formality and regimented adherence to protocols on one day of the week or 1 hour of one day of the week. There is a radical shift from traditionalism and corporate gatherings. Worship is not an event but a lifestyle, a day-by-day encounter with God instead of a once-a-week ritual monopolized by trained professionals. As people think and apply their minds, they realize that the onus and responsibility to grow spiritually rests on what we do as individuals as we navigate through the global events that is literally changing our views on everything. Religion and spirituality is not exempt from the effects of global transitions. Resilient faith helps you to connect with God in a more personal, non-prescriptive, but dynamic way, because we understand that the world is changing very fast and we need to embrace that change, make some mental shifts, and take proactive action to keep our faith alive. More and more people are beginning to realize that their spiritual growth is a matter of personal responsibility, and something as important as that, which influences all other aspects of their lives, should not be outsourced or delegated. Now, if you want to understand and grow in a personal relationship with God and connect with Him in a non-prescriptive way, then resilient faith is your supporter. Yes, we play a supportive role because resilient faith wants to build your capacity to bounce back and connect with God in your space and at your pace. We facilitate a relationship and connection with God, not membership with a church or institution. We believe a growing personal relationship with God is most important, more than anything else you do. We believe that none of us are perfect, and each of us deserve the opportunity to bounce back in our faith journey. Resilient faith proactively facilitates this with courses instead of discourses. Now, why courses instead of discourses? Why a step-by-step learning experience instead of sermons, cliches, mantras, or slogans? We have learned that taking ownership of one's personal spiritual growth requires a process and consistent guidance that leads from one growth principle to the next. The effectiveness of the method cannot be denied, especially since it is self-paced. Traditional sermons are hit-and-run monologues that is garnished with amens and handshakes. However, very often, next steps are omitted because of time constraints, and it doesn't fit in with the discourse model. So most times, people are introduced, inspired, and motivated, but no one has the time to walk with you to Christ. Churches can talk you to Christ, but really walk with you to Him. That is the gap that is filled by resilient faith and is the goal of resilient faith. We just want to help you in your walk with God. The reality is that we are different from each other. Our needs are different, and we are at different points on the continuum of spirituality. We help to connect you with Jesus Christ. Therefore, we do not do any church promotions. That decision, if you make it, should be between you and God. It's like choosing a doctor. You decide based on your need, and no one knows your need better than you and God. All Bible-based churches appreciate this mindset. If you feel that being in a vibrant and growing relationship with God is more important and more critical than mere denomination or religious affiliation here and hereafter, then you got the idea. We already think the same. Let's be partners. You might be wondering if you should partner with resilient faith to be a beneficiary or benefactor. Now here's how you decide. Reflect on these questions and decide. Number 1, do you believe that it's possible that anyone can connect or reconnect with God in a personal and relational way, no matter how far or close they might be in relation with God? Do you agree that learning how to is equally important as part of the process of having a vibrant walk with God? Not just knowing that it's possible, but engaging and being an active participant in the process. Number 3, do you concur that not everyone connects with God in the same way? Do you agree that a one-size-fits-all mindset actually excludes many people, and that because God created us unique, then understanding yourself and mastering a personal rhythm with God through your individual personality is essential to maintaining an active faith? Do you believe that none of us are perfect except God, and that each of us deserve the opportunity to bounce back spiritually and get back on track in our faith journey and have a personal relationship with God? Finally, do you believe that knowing Christ and helping others to know Him in a personal way is a shared responsibility of all Christians? Your yes to these 5 questions mean that your heart and mind is aligned with the vision of resilient faith, and there is no conflict of interest. I invite you as a beneficiary and welcome you as a benefactor, a partnership to help more people build a resilient faith. The times demand it. I look forward to our partnership, and may God richly bless you.